Hi there, another walk along video, and I'm going to be ranting a little bit in this one. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you're new here, welcome. I am Patricia Brooks. I am an American who lives in the south of France, and I help people who are ready to start the next chapters of their lives living and thriving in a foreign country, build the confidence and courage and wherewithal to actually take the leap and thrive abroad. On my channel, I talk about living in France, moving abroad, and how to live life the way you know you were supposed to. And today I'm going to be talking about my journey, or my recent journey, as a French resident. Now, I have been living in France for 8 years. Over the last 5 years, I have been a profession libérale visa. I've had a profession libérale visa. That means that I'll show you what I'm looking at once I get past these people. That means that I am able to create my business, make money here. And I applied for that 5 years ago. The first visa was for a year, and then I had it renewed for 4 whole years. And I was over the moon, because what that meant was that I didn't have to apply for a visa for 4 years. Well, 2026 is my 4th year, and so I have to apply again for a visa. This time around, I can go for a 10-year resident card, which is even better. That will give me the right to actually work, have a job here in France, and then I won't have to reapply for 10 whole years. So that's next level. And so I was like, okay, I'm ready to get this started. I heard that there were some delays with visa renewals. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to get this started very soon. I've been studying for the French civics exam, which is now a requirement for multi-year resident cards, and for going for citizenship, which I plan to also apply for this year. Well, so at the end of this month, I hope to take my citizenship test. I have pre-enrolled and spoke to somebody at the school. She assured me that they would get back to me. They would enroll me for sure, give me a link to pay, all of that. So hopefully by the end of this month, I will have taken that. I will have passed that successfully, and that will be something else I can check off. But what I did yesterday was I wanted to see what all the documents were to apply for this 10-year card. Now, I did this months ago kind of to prepare myself, but now that it's getting really pretty close and I'm going to get a head start, or was going to try to get a head start, I first off had the hardest time finding this information. Every time I looked, it brought me to a site for people who had family and were going for a 10-year card, or I think some people who could go for a 10-year card immediately. It's like, nah, that's not me. How come I can't find this? Finally, I realized that I needed to go to this ANF site, a site for people who need to get residence cards, apply for visas, and I think it's pretty new. So, because this is the first time I'm using this site, I'm like, oh, okay. So they have digitized it. That's wonderful. So since this is the first time I'm using this site, I was like, okay, this is new, but it sounds like they've got it together. And so I try to just do the little wizard. I think it's a wizard that you can answer questions so that you can see what all is required. Well, the problem is it keeps asking me to log in. I don't think I have have a password yet, so I create a new account. It says, oh no, you have an account. You can log in by connecting to another France service website that you already have. My tax website or my health insurance card website. And I do that, and it connects me. And it kind of gets me in this loop, this perpetual loop where I can't do anything. So first off, it took me forever to figure out what site I needed to go to or where the documentation was. Second of all, it's impossible to do. So then, it was a Saturday, so I asked the chat bot, and it said, oh, well, maybe you need to be in Firefox browser. So I downloaded that, and I had to stop and do other things, and I came back to it later that night. Still the same problem, right? It's like, why does this have to feel so hard? So I went searching the internet. I said, problems with the ANIF website being down. And what came up were some videos that said, yeah, the website is crap. It's buggy. People can't do what they need to do. They can't renew. They can't extend when they don't get the renewals in a timely manner. And that is putting their status, their immigration status, in jeopardy. And at that point, I said, now I understand what's going on, but that just made me feel really good. Because here I am trying to take care of this ahead of time, and maybe that's a good thing. Maybe I need to go to the prefecture to see what's going on, but it doesn't make me feel really good. Right? I was so glad not to have to do this for 4 years, and I'll be glad not to have to do this for another 10, or maybe ever once I get citizenship. Knock on wood. So that's what I've been dealing with. I will keep you posted on that. I will keep you posted on the French civics exam, which I am studying for every day. And I'm getting better and better, learning some really interesting pieces of information about France, and some pieces that are interesting but probably not so useful, or probably won't even be asked on the exam. But I will be ready. Because one of the things is, for me, taking a test, I know I can learn the information. It's just the stress of it all. When I taken how many French exams have I taken? I've taken about 4 French exams since I've been here. The first one was on my own for no reason, just to gauge my level. The second one was something that the state required me to do, and I did, and I passed it, except for, there was a problem with the oral part where they record everything, the recordings for the group of people who I was with. You do this individually, but that series of recordings got erased. And so I had to go back and take the oral part again. So I'm counting that as a time. And then my DELF exam that I took last spring. And each time it brings up a certain amount of stress in me, right? That's the piece that is nerve-wracking. That's the piece that I could really do without. However, it is what it is. And I'm going to do my best on this exam at the end of the month. So that's where we are. It's cherry season, and earlier this week I was walking by this very spot, and there was a man in a truck, and he had a basket, and it was full of cherries. He had just finished picking the cherries off of his land, and I was walking by, and he offered me a cherry. He's like, oh, I took one. He said, oh no, take some. So I took a handful. Like, it's things like that that make me feel so good to be living here. It's things like that that light me up and say, this place is magical. And that's not the first time. One time somebody offered me tomatoes. Another time somebody offered me apricots. And I don't know why that makes me feel so good, but it's like people I don't know, or people maybe I've seen a couple of times. This guy with the cherries, I'd never seen him before, but very friendly. And, it just makes me feel good about humanity again. Now I'm going downhill now, so hopefully I'm not huffing and puffing in your ear. Another update I have is that I have, and I think I've probably shared this with you many times, I moved to France not really knowing why. Like, I had this urge to get here. It was like, you need to be in France. And it was kind of a new sort of thing in the 2014, 2015 timeframe. It's not something that I've felt all of my life. It's been really recent. And that was fine because it was so strong that I just followed it. I said, okay, what do I need to do? And I did the steps and I moved here. But once I got here, and you probably have heard the story before, why would I quit my job, start living off of savings, and not really have a plan for what came next to live in France, right? Just because it felt like I needed to be here. Wasn't logical, wasn't practical, and yet I'd done this thing. Well, over the years, until very recently, I really couldn't give you a solid answer. People would ask me, and I'd just say, it was a midlife crisis. Yeah, or midlife awakening. And people settled for that. I was like, okay, that's good. But it bothered me so much that I decided I needed to answer this. And I decided to answer this by writing a book. And that book is done. The manuscript is done. I am just proofreading it, getting it ready to send out to agents next week. Yay! Something I've been working on for a really long time. And it feels really good to be here. But one of the things that I realized in writing and rewriting and editing and revising and all of the things that need to be done to get a draft to the best state it can possibly be so that it has the best chance of being liked and desired, I realized that to be a writer, you have to be a good decision maker. You have to be a good decision maker. And I mean that from the standpoint of sitting down at your desk and writing, or wherever you write, instead of doing something else. Because there's so many things that pull our attention. Deciding to, commit, 2 hours a day or whatever you are, whatever you plan, whatever you commit to doing. So there's that decision. And it's a decision that you have to do daily. Then there are the decisions of, well, what do I write? Right? So figuring out what topic you're going to write about, figuring out what genre you're going to write in. But then when the rubber hits the road, it's about the small decisions that you have to make. The words that you use, those versus that. And let me get down this little tricky part, and then I'm going to continue talking. All right. So it's choosing which words to use. Using a thesaurus and then going through the thesaurus and looking at synonyms and reading the definitions and and all of that, right? And that gets so tiring. And as I said, I'm in the process of proofreading, and I'm like, this is just proofreading. I'm looking for errors, small errors, not any big major changes, because I know there'll be changes, but now is not the time to make them. It is as good as it's going to get, and I just want to make sure there are no typos, no small errors like that. All right. So, but those small decisions take a lot of energy. And that's when I realized, to be a writer is to be a decision maker. You got to decide. You got to decide on this word. You got to decide on this punctuation. You got to. So to be a writer is to be a decider.
Bonjour, merci.
Bonjour. What do you think about that? To be a writer is to be a decider. Are you writers? Do you struggle with decision? Does that make writing hard for you? Does that make even just sitting down and doing it hard for you? I think the more you do it, the easier it gets, but it still can lead to decision fatigue. I know that there are people who have the same outfit that they wear every day because that's one less decision that they have to make, right? And if they've made a lot of decisions, they're in a position of authority, that matters. So spring has sprung, and you can see things are growing up incredibly. It's an overcast day today, but it's not raining. Maybe it'll rain tonight and tomorrow morning. But it's not raining right now. So I thought I'd take advantage of coming out and taking you on a walk. And, you know, the horrible part about this is that when I walk through these paths, like, it's not horrible for me because I get to smell it, but you don't. Like the smell, the scent of flowers hangs in the air, and it's not something I remember smelling when I lived in the U.S. Of course, I didn't live in an area that was this woody, and normally my walks were just around a suburban neighborhood. But there are lots of places, even in town, that I can get that whiff of flowers, and that's pretty amazing. You know, I was talking about my visa, my resident card application. I'm also going for citizenship because now is the time to do that. Once I have 5 years in working here, which will be September, then I can hit submit. And so I'm going to collect the documents for that. And now's the time for me to get serious about understanding what's required and then gathering what I need. And that is definitely going to be a much more challenging process. You know, I need documents that prove where my parents were born. And for my mom, that's okay. She was born in Pennsylvania. And in that state, I, as her daughter, can request her birth certificate. Both my parents, all my parents, my stepfather included, have passed. The problem is my dad was born in Maryland. And for his birth certificate, I need to get a court, what do you call it? Court order. Now, I might have a workaround in that on his death certificate, there is his place of birth and his place of death and the date of birth. So I think that might work. And I think I might have to go with that and point that out and be very, very specific. I would love to have his birth certificate, but I'm not sure how easy or hard it will be for me to get a court order for that. So, and I don't want to make my life harder than it has to be. You know, one thing that I really believe is that life was not meant to be a struggle. And I started to believe this, or I wanted to believe this, back in 2012. I was working at a bank, and I was a contractor, and I was not really that jazzed with what was going on in my life. I was going through a divorce. I was being assigned projects that weren't that interesting, and I wasn't even leading them, all right? I was more of a project coordinator. I was getting paid well, but I wasn't having the kind of assignments that I wanted. And I felt like I wasn't really in charge of my life. And so I was reading a lot of self-help books, and I was reading a lot of Stuart Wilde, and he had one book that's called Life Was Never Meant to Be a Struggle. And I read it, and I thought, I like this idea, and I want to believe this idea, but my life feels like a struggle because I am a type A kind of person, pushing, striving, and that can sometimes make things hard. You can arrive at where you want to go with a lot of effort, much more tired for the wear because you chose to push instead of to allow things. And I think that comes from, you know, this idea of trying to control. And, you know, in this process of going for my 10-year resident card, in this process of going for citizenship, I am working to allow, you know, with this situation with the website, yesterday evening when I realized, oh, it's not me. It's nothing I'm doing. I put it aside, and I have some things that I think I can do. I'm not up against a tight deadline, but I don't want to be, which is why I'm starting now. And so I think in the next couple of weeks, I am going to make an appointment at my prefecture, if that's possible, because one of the remedies that I saw, you know, one of the remedies was, get a lawyer. I was like, you know, it's already going to cost me a lot to go for citizenship. I don't want to add on to that. But another one was, the problem with the website isn't the website, it's that your prefecture hasn't added you into the system, and so it, you know, puts you in loops. Which very might well be the case. If you think about 4 years ago, I don't believe this system existed. And so whenever it went live, they put the people who needed it or who were most recently granted residence cards or visas. And so 4 years later, bonjour. Ah oui, et vous?
Ouais, ça va.
Oui, c'est la saison pour la cerise. Oui. Look, did I not just talk about this? Somebody else just gave me a handful of cherries from his tree. This is what I'm talking about. Now I'm trying to film. I've got a handful of cherries, and I'm going to try to finish this video, so bear with me. All right, and I don't even know what I was talking about. I think I was talking about life not being a struggle. So come to realize is that when I push or when things seem hard and I just try to force or control, then things can be challenging. I just finished my taxes. It's May 10th. I've been working with a service, and I had somebody review them, and I had some questions, and it was over email, and you have to be really clear, especially when it comes to something as intricate as taxes, when you're trying to communicate by email. And so the back and forth was a little bit stressful, But I think I handled that in a way that felt pretty easeful as well. And today I got, a message. I thought, okay, on Wednesday, if I don't hear anything back, I'll send another follow-up. And I didn't have to do that. She replied and she said, well, this is the last time you're going to hear from me. I guess I was a little bit of a pest, but I need to understand something if I'm going to sign it. So my visa application, or with this website issue, I think I need to go to the prefecture. And I think that what I heard about, perhaps it's not a website issue per se, but that your data is not in it because the prefecture hasn't uploaded it. And that could be because, well, I got my visa or my resident card 4 years ago before this site went live. And that maybe they have a backlog. And some people may not renew, and so that's okay. But those of us who need to renew need our information to be in there. And so I think that the recourse is to contact the prefecture. Now, that might be easier said than done, but we will see. It's a Sunday here. It's a little quiet because the weather is not bright and sunny. But quiet is not bad. Quiet is not bad. I think the older I get, the more inward I like to go. And I think in society today, that can be seen as something that is maybe not such a good thing. But I am coming to terms with it. And feels good to me. Feels good to me. We got some seagulls calling. Sound like babies. So I think I'm going to end it here. Kind of rambled on a little bit today, but hopefully you enjoyed what I had to share. And if you've got any ideas about what I should do about this website, if you've come across this problem and you've figured it out, let me know in the comments. Be really nice to get a solution there. All right, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, share it with friends, subscribe, and I will see you again next time. Bye for now.